Going into motherhood, I forgot about that part of myself. I was so focused on being a mom and doing momming correct. I was so focused, like, then I had work, and so I just put a lot of my hobbies aside. I stopped playing volleyball. I stopped doing a lot of the things that I was passionate about that I would normally do in my free time, because what free time do you have as a mom?
Hi, friend, and welcome to the Girlfriend's Guide to Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Kathy, 47 years young, navigating the roller coaster of midlife right alongside you. When I realized how much there was to figure out in this season of life, I thought, who better to turn to than our girlfriends? Together, we'll dive into real conversations, share wisdom, and embrace all the messy, beautiful moments of midlife. So grab your favorite drink and let's jump right in. I'm so excited you're here. Hey friend, I'm so excited to introduce you to one of my local friends, Juli Forde. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So Juli is a single mom to 3 boys, 6, 8, and 10. She is an entrepreneur of Wild and Wood Creations. She's actually the one that if you ever buy a house from me, you get a closing gift, and she makes all of my closing gifts, and they're very special. And what I love, there's so many things I love about you, but when I asked her what she's most proud of, she said the ability to persevere and to continue to keep making, or to continue to keep betting on myself. And I think that's so powerful, because as women, we have to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, life is not full of rainbows and butterflies.
No.
And that's what this podcast is all about, is just that adversity, persevering. So that's her own personal quote, although I botched it. I'm sorry. She is 37 years young, and I've had a couple other 37 middle-aged 30-year-olds on the podcast. And I just want to first say the reason why is because I think midlife is really a state of mind. I've asked some women who are 40 and they're like, I'm not midlife. Well, that's their state of mind, and that's okay. I don't think that it's a stigma. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think midlife comes with wisdom. It comes with courage. And I was telling Juli, we laughed about this, is that and I honestly feel like I started in midlife in my mid 30s.
Yeah.
Where I started to think about like the next chapter of my life, and what do I want it to look like, and what is life going to look like after kids, and all of those things, right? But I said, I think midlife is kind of not just a season or a phase, but it's a place we arrive at, and then we die. And I don't mean that like morbidly, but I do. I mean, I think an 80-year-old could say they're in midlife and share
Absolutely.
wisdom. It is really just this space and this identity. And I think it's a beautiful identity personally. But so one of my first questions, of course, is you're 37 years young. How's midlife? And do you really feel like you're in midlife?
I do feel like I'm in midlife, early midlife. Like you said, it's a state of mind. I've had a major transition in my life in the past year. So speaking about seasons, I do feel like that opened me up to a brand new season of my life that I get to assess, live a little bit, I wouldn't say selfish, but more self-aware, more taking up more space in the world, the ability to grow and learn from past mistakes and implement.
Ooh, I can't wait to unpack that. That's juicy. Okay, so I know what you just said comes with a lot, right? We go
Yes.
through a lot. And our 30s are so full of like mistakes and fun and challenges. You have 3 kids. So you've been in the thick of it for some time, 6, 8, and 10. So you're 37. I mean, you started having kids pretty young.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 27.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So 10 years of like all of that wisdom.
Right.
Well, take us back to maybe like when because you're divorced.
Correct.
You've been divorced about 7 years,
Hmm.
and ish. That
Yeah.
could be
I
off.
don't know.
You can. Time's
I'm
all
not a
relevant.
mather. I run a creative business. So
I'm not a mather. That's so funny because my brain doesn't always work that
no,
way.
I'm
That's
like,
why I have notes and I
yeah.
try to like timeline stuff out. And people
Yeah.
are like, "What did you do a year ago?" I'm like, "I don't even know what I did yesterday."
Facts.
Anyway, okay, so take us back to just like when you first got married and started having kids and that
Hmm.
season of your life that's really led you to this wisdom that you just shared about.
Yeah. So I actually met my now ex-husband in grad school. We got pregnant pretty fast. And then we're like, let's get married. And so, very untraditional in terms of how we did it. I was actually raised Mormon. Um, and I grew up in California. So, I was in school in Kansas, coaching my sport, got pregnant. We decided to get married. So, there was a lot of conditioning of my upbringing in terms of like, you need to get married if you're going to have a kid.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and
Was your ex Mormon?
no,
Okay.
but he actually grew up in Barbados. So that was a big conversation. He was there, he was on a student visa. So that was a big conversation of maintaining relationship with the kids and
Yeah.
how that would look like once he was out of school and things along those lines. So it was a complicated equation, but ultimately we wanted to provide, like, be there, have both parents in his life.
Yeah.
And obviously, look, at the time, we loved each other, and and so that was relevant of making sure that we could be a family.
I mean, we shared my story last week and we got pregnant before we got
Correct.
married
Yeah.
and we're 20,
Yeah.
like it's we all have our own story. So,
Absolutely.
I don't know if anything's traditional anymore.
No, what's tradition?
Right.
Like,
So you're in grad school, you get pregnant,
yep.
you get married,
Mm-hmm.
and you have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is your ex the same dad?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how that went. I know you at one point he joined the military and
Yeah. So we had my oldest son. We both graduated with our master's degrees, got into normal professions.
wow.
So when my oldest was about 2 years old, we got pregnant with the number two boy. And so being pregnant with Grayson, the idea of military had happened a couple of times. The conversation of him joining was, we had that a couple of times. So finally I'm like, I'm pregnant with number two. Like basically like shit or get off the pot. Like you're
Yeah.
either going to join or you're not going to join
Yeah.
because we can't keep having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so he decided to join the Army. He left for basic training after Grayson was 13 days old.
Oh, wow.
I worked full time. I was in admissions counseling. We owned a home in Kansas. And so having an almost 3-year-old and a 13-day-old, managing it all on my own.
Yeah.
And obviously in basic training, there's very little communication.
It had to be hard.
Yeah, or like writing letters, and we get a phone call every 2 weeks that lasted. I don't know the quantity of time, but it must have been, I think, 30 minutes tops.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was challenging for very different reasons on both of us. And then the job that he was in, the basic training, had both technical school and basic training. So what would normally be a shorter session was significantly longer. So we didn't live under the same roof again till we moved to Colorado when Grayson was then 10 months old.
Oh, wow. So for your first 10 months,
Basically,
you were
yeah.
a single mom.
Yeah. And then I moved us out here by myself and and just managed everything.
Wow. And gave up your job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we're going into a new environment, no community, first time as a military spouse. So there was a lot of challenges in that initial, well, just throughout it all, but in that season for sure.
I've always, growing up, I grew up in Colorado Springs. So I have a lot of, friends, family, past students, and, that our military families.
Right.
And I don't know if people that are listening that don't really understand the military or haven't grown up around that realize the amount of sacrifice that women and
A
families
hundred
make. The
percent.
soldiers make that too,
Right.
but, or, like the spouse that's staying at home, and they make a lot of
Well, they carry a
sacrifices.
lot of the family weight. They're
Mhm.
managing everything to keep the home running, to the questions that the kids have when they're gone for training or they get deployed, or overnight shifts, just little things that little brains can't understand.
Yeah.
And so um, there's just constant,
Stress. I
yeah,
mean, I
and
would
and
imagine.
curiosity,
Sure.
and it's a plethora of emotions
Yeah.
for everybody involved.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, when did things like start to change and maybe you realized that the marriage wasn't right?
Yeah. So soon after we moved here, we got pregnant with boy number 3.
Okay.
Um, and I feel throughout the course of our entire marriage, there was little signs. But ooh, I grew up, no, like my parents had kind of like a fairy tale marriage.
Mm.
They met at a park playing tennis. They were engaged 2 weeks later. 6 months later, they were married. They've had 5 kids, and they've been married they're still married to this day. And so the idea of like, if you love hard enough, then that's all. Love is what matters.
Mm.
And so I thought that that was a component. And then seeing some of the things that had transpired, some of the ways that I was feeling, some of the actions on both of our ends, there was signs significantly throughout the whole time that I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And I think there was one night in particular, it was in October. So Damien was 4 months old. And we had a really significant heart to heart that I would identify as like a small trauma in my life. If you've ever read The Body Keeps Score,
Okay.
that helped me understand a little bit about that. Awesome book. Everyone should read it.
Yeah. I haven't
Um,
read that, but I've
oh,
heard a lot about it.
it's good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right.
it's a lot to take in. There's so much good information in there. So whatever you can handle,
We'll have to
it's
link
heavy.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But after reading that, I can now identify that that was a small trauma in my life, of that conversation and how I reacted and things that came to light. And so I wrestled with leaving for 6 solid months
Mm-hmm.
because I knew I'm that person that thinks about it 20 different angles of the conversation, 20 different perspectives. I'm going to assess his perspective, my kid's perspective. What is 3 kids'
Well, it's
perspectives?
a big
How is it going?
decision. I
It's
mean,
100% a big decision. And I hit I had a realization in February that I was like, yeah, I can't stay.
mhm.
But it took me multiple times. And then that's right when COVID hit.
Oh, geez.
So
Okay.
dealing with we had to pivot what that looked like in terms of separation, and nesting is a common thing. So we tried to nest during COVID, and we tried a bunch of different techniques.
Tell me
Um,
what that means. I'm not
okay,
familiar
so
with nesting.
nesting would be you would decide who has what parenting times,
Okay.
and then that parenting person stays in the marital home along with the kids,
Oh.
and then the other person would leave during when it's not their time. So, I stayed on friends' couches but that way it maintained consistency for the
Wow.
kids,
Couch surfing.
basically. And some people choose to
Like
nest.
mid-30s. I don't know if you think you're ever going to be at that point. Like,
Some people choose to nest when they're like, okay, we have a separate apartment. And so, you know,
yeah, but
they
even
float between
COVID,
them.
that had to have been so strange.
Yes. And so we tried a lot of different things with just moving into separate bedrooms and things along those lines. But ultimately, he decided to switch jobs in the military,
Okay.
um, and continue the separation. So he left to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 weeks of the separation, of long distance separation, truly us not living in the same home, truly us having much firmer boundaries with one another, even though we had firmer boundaries, just that inability to ask that person to, hey, can you watch the kids? I have to work late, right? Like I was single parenting solely because the kids stayed here because of school.
Yeah.
So once he left, within 2 weeks, paperwork had started to be
Yeah.
filed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It just was like too challenging.
Yeah. I think patience is a virtue.
I can't imagine, Julie, like your decision if you were to stay together would have had to have been to move to North Carolina.
Correct.
And
And
if
that
you
was what
had
he
any
wanted.
stability here, like
Yeah.
you would have lost that
Yeah.
sense of independence
Yeah.
too.
And I worked full time. All the kids were established in like daycare or school.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to give up. Uh, Also, partially why he moved, that training was a year long, and that if he were to get out, if something were to happen, if he were to get injured or he wouldn't have graduated, he would have just gotten out of the military.
Mm.
And so I was like, I'm not giving up my life and what I've taken to rebuild, because it's hard to already initially I'm rebuilding as once from moving to Colorado. I'm not doing it again without a guarantee.
Yeah.
And there was none of that. And so I chose to stay, knowing that, and that's something I always share, that that my choice to leave the marriage broke my heart, but I knew ultimately it's what I needed, because love's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that I wouldn't tolerate what was happening any longer.
Mm. Well, and I wonder, like, that's a pretty firm statement. Love is not enough. But I wonder, if there's levels of love. We don't have to get too deep into this, but it just kind of makes me think, like, I mean, we love our neighbor. We love
Right.
our dogs. We love our kids. We love our spouse. We love our parents. And all of those forms of love look very different. And when you're married, like you're in this space of like intimacy and being
Right.
in love and like in that relationship, there's so much more that goes into a relationship that you might love them, right? And you
Right.
might always love him. He's the father of your kids.
Right.
But, like you said, is that enough?
Mm-hmm.
So I probably it changed. It sounds like
Big
that
time.
just changed a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And it's more of, at that moment, I had to choose loving myself,
Mm. Well,
which is something that I still am not. I'm not always the best at it.
yeah. I was gonna say we have to choose that. We have to. I mean, sometimes it's hard to do that. We have to choose to do that almost every day. And as women, we are not good at that.
No,
So
because
kudos to you.
like I think the ability to learn to put the oxygen mask on yourself first should be taught like in school, but we're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are in midlife and 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever your age is, still trying to figure out how to do that.
So I'm so curious how your family responded to making that decision. I know growing up Mormon, like that's probably was a pretty challenging conversation.
So at that point, there had been the dynamic with my parents wasn't there. Like we kind of, I don't know how to say this, but there was a break in our relationship. And it was a slow, gradual one, and I was very isolated from my family. So they found out from my siblings, actually. And so then, and recently we rekindled our relationship, and it's been really nice, slow progression on that. And as we've shared some of the things that have happened, like there's, I think, a lot of not empathy, not sympathy, but a lot of like, if I would have known, I would have handled things different. I would have been there for you. I would have done this. I would have done that, and vice versa. So I think that offers wisdom to see, like, what does that do to relationships?
Yeah. And it's so hard because when we're in the thick of life and we have these stories that we create in our mind about what somebody else is going to think.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the family dynamics, right? Like it's easy to refrain, right? And not tell because even in a marital relationship, it's easier to break down and not communicate because you have all the thoughts that are like, no, I'm going to say that and this is what's going to happen. And oftentimes those are not truths.
Right.
We create these stories in our minds, but I mean, it's all fear-based.
hmm
Yeah.
Well, that's something I even talk to, like I parent my kids along when I'm like, sometimes our brain just lies to us and we can't believe every single little thought.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of that, having the courage to have a vulnerable conversation, and sometimes you would rather just numb out. Sometimes you'd rather just not talk about it. But once you do, you get to see a whole different side.
Mhm.
And it actually builds relationship versus just fostering the narrative, versus just fostering like, and whether that narrative is about that person or about yourself.
Mhm.
And that can be a challenge too, of like in that situation, it'd be like, nobody understands me, right? So you don't share this story when in reality, going through a divorce is nothing special, especially in the military. Going
Yeah.
through some of these other things is like that I've experienced is nothing necessarily special. It's my story, and it's the combination of all those things that make me special. But those singular moments, it's humbling to know that like you're not on an island. You're not
Yeah.
alone. There's a lot of people
Relate
that
and
can and
understand
help you through the process. But if
mhm.
you're too stuck in your narrative, or if you're too stuck in your own head or your shame or your guilt about it,
Mhm.
you're going to stay there.
Yeah.
And it might not be, it'll just take that one moment of courage to be like, to shift the perception.
So tell me a little bit about that. Like, when did you come to that? Did you like have a moment where you were like, I feel really alone. I need help. Like, did you ever reach out for help? Did you have a community as a military wife?
Um, I had a couple, okay. I'm like, there was a couple strong moments of like, I need to have courage. I need to know what that looks like. And it actually, I had a Facebook friend that was really vulnerable, not even about the topic, but her vulnerability on Facebook, where I'm like, I want to be like that. I have that within me too. It's time.
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, like, what do I have to lose other than continue, like, I'm losing more time. I'm losing all these things about myself. I'm losing my, like, parts of my heart in the process. And so the ability to step into that
well,
courage
after
is
you
really
saw that,
powerful.
what did that look like? What did
I
stepping
think I
into
just
the
started
courage?
learning how to use my voice.
Okay. Did you reach out to somebody? Did you like,
I reached out to her.
you reached out to her?
hmm
Oh, good.
hmm
That's
So,
powerful.
yeah.
Vulnerability is like something that is so hard, but it's one of the, I think, most healing things. I think that's one of the biggest like points of my podcast too. And I encourage people when they come on, hey, it's kind of hard to just put yourself out there, but like being vulnerable, like people can see themselves, like you just shared. It wasn't even the same story, but you saw yourself
Yes.
going, that represents strength,
Correct.
and I
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
Mhm.
everybody has that ability. It's choosing to step into
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. So, you're now, your ex goes to North Carolina
Mhm.
and you're in Colorado. You already had a taste of single parenting through boot camp and all of that. But
Mhm.
like, what was that like now with three littles by yourself and working full time and
Right.
having to hold it all together and choose yourself?
I was thankful that I had a very what's the word? Flexible career. So the ability to bring my kid to or figure out how to maneuver meetings. I was in title in real estate.
Okay.
And so I did business development. So my job is to build relationships.
Yeah.
So luckily in real estate, a lot of people, there's a lot of single moms. There's a lot of people who do this for their family to have to be more present with their family. So I had support from amazing, the manager and sales team. Everybody was just like, dude, I get it. Like you're in a tough season. You're going through this. And so I was fortunate enough to have understanding around. So if I ever had sick kiddos, if I ever had doctor's appointments or snow days galore in Colorado,
Right.
right? And so
What? Another snow day?
yeah. You're like, golly, geez.
Uh-huh.
And so that ability I would set meetings around play dates because I would make sure if I knew my kids were off school, I'd be like, cool, your kids are probably home too. Let's have them hang out and we can,
Mhm.
hang out and talk business while our kids play together. And
Yeah.
you had I had to get creative on what that looked like. I
Mhm.
also lived in a neighborhood where I had friends and neighbors that would help out, um, and so I think it like the village mentality.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it really
Yes.
does take a village, and it's good that you were able to kind of find some support because I imagine that not everybody has that.
No.
You know, they don't have the flexible job. They don't have the
Hmm.
boss that's understanding. They don't have the neighbor that you can knock on the door and say, "Hey, I got to run to the store. Can you watch the kids?" Like,
Right. Right.
so
So
I'm
that was,
glad you did.
yeah. And I would say, like, if you don't, do your best to find it, and even if that person's not in person, having that friend or family member that you can call when you just need to vent or like let it out,
Mhm.
because you can't do it alone. And in today's world and with technology, like, we don't have there's no reason we should feel alone. And even though I still do it, like, I think we all go back into old patterns. Um,
Mhm.
but you have to remind yourself that having people is so important.
Yeah.
We're not made to be alone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't. My youngest just, truly flew the nest and got his own apartment,
Hmm.
and we have an opportunity to get him a dog, and he's like ecstatic because he's like 2 days by himself in this apartment. He's like, it's so quiet. So even just like the thought of him having, I know that sounds so random and
No.
off topic, but really it's just this, like, we need people to take care of. We need community.
Yeah.
This world isn't meant
And
to
when
be
you're
done
in the
alone.
thick of it, a dog's a beautiful, and that's something that we did, was getting a dog, so it made you get out of bed.
Yes.
Because it's really easy as an
Somebody else to take care of.
entrepreneur to be like, "Oh, I don't have to work today."
Mhm.
Right? And so I'm just going to binge the show, and then for me personally, it's like getting stuck in the mud.
Mm.
And like halfway through the day, I'm like, gosh, I can't get out of this, but I really need to. But
Mhm.
that was really nice, having a reason to get up in the morning, because
Mhm.
sometimes coffee doesn't always get you going.
Yeah, sometimes you don't make it to your coffee pot.
Right. You're
Well,
like, I'll take an extra nap
I know
today.
this last summer was a big transition for you because
Correct.
you've been, full time, school mom
Mm-hmm.
for, the first 9 years of your oldest life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys had a change in parenting dynamic. So
Correct.
tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it took a lot to make that shift. I I'm a big advocate of listening to let my kids have a voice about things. I think it's important because, once again, that was something I learned, is how to activate my voice. So if I silence my kids' voices, I'm not doing better. Like, I need them to advocate for themselves. And I'm very big on advocating for yourself.
Love that.
And so they had voiced that they wanted to spend more time with their dad.
Mm.
And that makes sense.
They're
My
boys.
oldest will turn 11 in like less than a week.
Mhm.
And so the idea of boys need their dad, and
Yeah.
their dad wanted more time with them. And which is a beautiful thing in today's world. It's not always the case for a lot of women as single mothers. And so I had to shift of, well, my kids think I'm a bad mom, or they don't love me because they want, right? We get stuck in our narrative. So
Yeah.
my narrative was like, I'm not doing enough for them, or like, if I parent very differently. So if I parent, like, not differently, I parent different than their dad.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Naturally, we're different people, different
100%.
cultures, different,
Right.
I mean, man, woman, like, we're just gonna,
Correct.
yeah.
And so I was like, if I was a different type of mom, maybe that would be different. Like, I was going through
The rabbit hole. You're
yeah.
going down the rabbit hole of all the
And
negative thoughts of why they didn't want to be with you.
I had to take something off my shoulders. And the minute I chose that happened, minute a shift happened, I was like, I can now function from a place of love. And I can listen to their voice, and I can listen to like my true voice, and make a good decision for them. And also, after 9 years of pouring into these kids nonstop, to the point where I've neglected a lot about myself, things I needed, it was like, I finally want to take up space.
Mm.
I finally want to I need to heal parts of myself I haven't gotten the chance to. And running a business, running 3 kids, to do all the things,
Yeah.
I always put myself in last
Yeah.
place. So that it's been a journey of, once an a strong journey of grief initially, of the transitions, little things like not taking them to school when I would see the clock and I'm like, this is so weird. Okay, I can honor that this is weird. Like I can feel it. And then I was like, oh, then it turned to, oh, this is nice that I don't have to leave the house every morning and rush out the door and,
And just so if you're listening in, you understand, like, you just swapped parenting times where he now has them for the school year and then you get them on the vacations.
correct.
Which
Yes.
kind of, I think, is a little bit more fun anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know as a mom at your core that I can't even imagine how hard that was.
Yes.
And I'm proud of you for trying to see another side of it. Like, well, maybe I can put myself first and I might have a little bit more time for this because, you also are listening to these littles and they're boys and they do want their dad. I have two older brothers, grew up in a single mom, and it was the same. The boys went and lived with my dad, when they were a little bit older, and then we were almost like split households. The girls stayed with mom, like, so
Yeah.
good for you for not allowing yourself, because I can imagine that you and I are very similar in that we have to work really hard to keep a straight, like, healthy mind all the time. It's easy to slip. It's easy to just go down the rabbit hole of the thoughts, right?
Yeah.
We have a very high level of awareness. That's something I've noticed about you too. So for you to just even be able to acknowledge that, even I think still pretty young, that's pretty powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I know one of your favorite things is being an entrepreneur, and we align with that as well. And that doesn't like, that's a huge decision. You are working full-time title, you have a master's degree, you're a very talented, educated woman, and you just have a dream and a goal to do something different.
Yeah.
And now you're a woodworker. And you're one of the most badass woodworkers I know.
Thank you.
And so creative.
Yeah.
And you have to check her out. We're going to link all of her things. You have to check her out. Do you ship, by the way, out of state?
I can ship,
okay.
yes.
But I would love to just hear the psychology and shift from working full time, because I know what my journey was like, but I'd love for others, because there's so many women, and I'm just kind of going on a tangent, but there's so many women that feel stuck. And, you were like 34, 35 when you started your own business, which some might consider late.
Right.
And like, but yet here you are grinding, and you quit the comfort zone of the 9-to-5 paycheck. So tell us about that. And you said something about Pinterest, and I'm kind of this story, I'm blown away by it. So just take it away on that level.
Okay. So I had always been creative my whole life. My undergrad's in public relations. So public relations was a mix of business and a mix of writing, like true public relations, how to do that, and then partially some visual arts. So I was the yearbook editor in college, but I've always had creative. My sister and I would have like craft night, and we'd scrapbook, and we just always just do random things.
Yeah.
And so going into motherhood, I forgot about that part of myself. I was so focused on being a mom and doing momming correct. I was so focused, like, then I had work, and so I just put a lot of my hobbies aside. I stopped playing volleyball. I stopped doing a lot of the things that I was passionate about that I would normally do in my free time, because what free time do you have as a mom? And so once he left for basic training, I was like, how am I going to handle the stresses of this, of working full time, of momming a toddler and momming a newborn? And I was like, I want to start creating again. I want to start doing something with my hands, something for my brain, and something that just peels off a layer of stress, that gets me out of like my things, right? And so I went on Pinterest, because I love Pinterest to this day. And so I'm scrolling, and I saw this thing about how do you make wood signs? And it's like carbon paper, like that backside of a check, right? It was like carbon paper.
Okay.
So I went and got the cheapest materials possible. of wood, all the paints, all the
Did you have
whatever.
like this vision of what wood sign you wanted to make? Because I know this
No, I
wasn't like
did
a, hey, I'm going to start
Christmas.
a business. You're
No,
just trying to be creative.
I did Christmas because
Okay.
Christmas was coming up and I knew we'd be moving PCSing somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm gonna do some Christmas stuff and then like I'll do a couple like signs for the house and like it'll be fine. Like it'll be fun. And if it's shit, then I'll throw it out. No big deal. And so that's how I started. And then at the time I was in admissions counseling at a technical school. And one of the guys working there was like, I love that. What'd you do this weekend, Julie? And so I told him and he's like, can I commission you to make me something? And I'm like, I can get paid to do something I actually enjoy and love.
You're
Like,
like, what?
right. I was like, this is a thing. And that was one like aha moment for me. And
I
then
love
we
that so
moved
much.
here and I was like, well, maybe I want to, it wasn't like start a side hustle, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe I want to do whatever. So I tried like some paint parties and I kept kind of making stuff. And then I eventually got a Cricut to do like stencils. And so I kept doing more and more. After we had Damien, I really wanted to take my business full time. And I didn't have any study
So it became a
clients.
business. You were just making things and
I thought
then,
I was like I had a dream of like how do I make this full time and could I try to do it and what would that look like? And that's when that one like I was really adamant of like I want to do this and it was like nope, like you're the breadwinner kind of like we need stability
yeah.
and you let's not take the risk. So I still just did it on the side.
Okay.
And then when I chose to leave, but still wanted to grow in it. I don't know where it came from. So I did a couple craft events or vendor fair type things. And then going through the divorce process, we sold our house. At that point, I was like, I'm going to upgrade. And I bought a laser machine. And that's when a lot of my philosophy pivoted. I still did it on the side. And I'm thankful for that. I've never really known what my clear vision is in life, but I know every major pivot I've made has been there. So at that point, me not going full time was probably the right move because growing relationships in real estate launched me 10 times further than I ever could have. And I could have ended up there, who knows, but it expedited that process for sure.
For sure.
And so then I decided to get the laser machine, work on that. And then I had actually switched title companies. And I was at that title company for 3 or 4 months. And that's when back in 2023, so like COVID got crazy with real estate, right? And the markets
Crazy.
were awesome. And then refis just stopped. So when the refis stopped, the whole company was like, we need to make budget cuts. So naturally, there was a workforce reduction. And I was managing the kids and divorced. And I was like, now's the time to do this because I don't have a job anymore. If in 5 years, where do I want to be? Do I want to go back into title or do I want to bet on myself? And so I gave myself 3 months.
Okay.
Where I'm like, if I can do this for 3 months, I can do this. And if I can't, then I'll just put my resume back out there and I'll go back into normal work. But right now, like let me try it. And I tried it. And 3 years later, I'm still trying it.
Well, what I love so much is that like, well, one, there's like military wives do side hustles. I
Yeah.
know so many.
So
And
many.
like, and I think that an aha I'm having right now is you were like, well, we were going to PCS and like I was still trying. Of course, because it's hard to maintain a traditional job.
Yeah.
But also like you want to kind of, I think as women, we want to have something that's ours.
100%.
So if the side hustle is the thing that's going to let you get the purse or get the shoes
Right.
or, whatever it is, like buy the kid the designer, stuff that they
Right.
want, like we just do that. Those are the sacrifices we make as moms and women. But I also think like, just the bravery of like going all in and betting on yourself, which seems to be a theme. that, I mean, here you are.
Yeah.
And are you loving it?
I love it. I love what I do. I know deep down I'm nowhere near where I want to be, where I will be creatively in terms like I have a lot of vision on what I want, not just in the creation side, but other aspects too.
Mm-hmm.
However, I know that I'm on the path I'm in the trenches right now doing the work, learning the hard lessons. How do you pivot business? What's the right balance of business? How do you maintain all the aspects of it, especially being a solopreneur to where I'm the person running the show, doing the social media, doing the networking, doing the
Preach.
and
Preach.
and the creation side of things. And I've been thankful there's been a couple other creatives in the real estate space that I've just found organically through friends, through networks. And
Mm-hmm.
so having other similar minded people that are a little spunky in their brain and creatively minded that can also be like, okay, this is what helped me, or like, I have the same problems, or yeah, I get what it feels like to business development all day. And then you still have to fulfill. Right.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that, like, once again, like we feed this narrative of like, it's so hard and I'm by myself or whatever. But in reality, you're not. But you have to be committed. Like you have to choose to persevere while still honoring yourself. So, like, I'm a morning person. So, like, one of my, this is, this is a little tip. Um,
Tell me. Give me the tip.
you have to know how you work best.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm a morning person. I know if I start my day productively, I'm going to have a good day. I know that if I'm lazy in the morning and I take my time and you know, I'm not going to want to create that day. And there's days where I'm like, I'm consciously being lazy because I need to set work down. I'm
Yeah.
on track with everything, or
It's
I'm
called rest. We need
oh
to rest also.
yeah,
Yeah.
rest.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. But when
Yes.
you have to hustle, you got to get your butt out of bed and go.
100%.
Hmm.
So I
I
know
relate.
how I work best. And I think that that's sometimes hard for people to know what that looks like. So if you're stuck, like it took me a little bit to be like, I had no choice being in this. And I learned that because being a solo mom, I had to choose. I woke up at 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning. I created for a couple hours, got the kids to school, and then I came home and did more. That way, when I picked them up from school, I know that I worked my hardest that day and then I could be present.
Which I have to just say, I think is really challenging because I love that when your creative times are. I'm very like aware of when I am on and when I am
Yeah.
off. And I'm even the people that I work with on the side, and I'm like, hey, I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
Like, there might be days that I might have to call in sick.
Right.
Because I'm not feeling good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's really powerful. I
Mhm.
mean, you are totally speaking my language as a realtor. Like, I'm it all. I'm a solopreneur too, and
Right.
I have to do it all myself too. And there's creative outlets, and then there's stuff that sucks that you don't want to do.
Mhm.
But what I think is really even more challenging is to push yourself. These are insights of entrepreneurship, but like to push yourself past those, like, I don't want to do it.
Right.
Because if you're like creating in the morning, you get your kids ready, you take them to school, and then you come home and you're like, gosh, I just want to go back to bed for 30 minutes. You can't.
Right.
You can't. You're not allowed as like a
No.
single mom or as a solopreneur,
Yeah.
or you really.
I have been guilty of doing that. I will not lie. But it's also like when it's go time, and I learned this the hard way, I would say, like I knew there was times and having like learning how to be more disciplined as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I don't think because part of entrepreneurship is like, oh, I don't have a schedule and I don't have this and I can do what I want when I want to, right? And in reality, you still have deadlines to meet. You still
Yeah.
have like clients but you get to choose who you work with.
Yeah.
And I think that's really we learn a lot of I've failed up numerous times learning who I want to work with, who I don't enjoy working with, just personality types alone.
Yeah.
Learning if once again At the end of the day, I make cool closing gifts. I make cool signs. I make cool swag. I make cool something. It is not life or death. Like, it's not brain surgery. But I would do everything I'm capable of to fulfill it. But at the same time, if my kid is like, if there's an emergency or if there's something traumatic, like something I need to address,
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of like my home first, even if I know I'm going to lose a customer, even if I know I'm not going to hit a deadline, because at the end of the day, relationships matter on both ends. Relationships in my business relationships. So are they my people? And the relationships in my life where these things would affect them.
Well, it's just grace, right? Like, we're not
Right.
perfect. Like, and there
Right.
are definitely clients that I've worked with that I will not work with again.
Right.
And if you're listening, it's probably not you. But I
Probably.
mean, there's definitely like, I mean, that's the glory and beauty of entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that we do have flexibility, and that we do get to
Yeah.
choose who we want to work with. And we are also human, and have to call in sick, even though most people think we just work 24 hours a
Right.
day.
And there's days I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, gosh,
It's
I've
balance.
literally been working for like sun up to sundown, and now it's been
I'm
cool.
so curious if there's somebody listening in and they're like really feeling stuck and they would love to take a leap and just pivot and make a career change and maybe test out entrepreneurship, start a
Mm-hmm.
side hustle or whatever. Like, what advice would you give them?
Ooh, great question. I think starting with as a side hustle is a great idea. I think you don't have to like you just take a small bite of the apple. It doesn't have to be the whole apple, and then decide if it's for you or not. Um, I'm not like the most strategic person when it comes to like, oh, I need to have 6 months of savings and I need to do this and you need to do that. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm a huge Gary Vee fan. He talks about it all the time, like, go freaking do it. Go look, here's what it looks like. Take the leap. Like, it's okay. And that's something that's pushed me a lot is knowing like Oprah didn't start till she was 50 years old. And
Yeah.
look what she built, right? Like, we're not behind in any capacity. So if you want to have the courage, it's within you to make that choice. And you're going to naturally find your people that are going to support you. You're going to naturally find the thing that you're passionate about. Like, you have to know, like, for me, there's a level of like, I care about what I do. I know I'm talented at what I do. It's not, I get into flow space. It's also healing for me and things in my experiences of doing something with my hands and getting my brain going back into my body in creation. And there's power in how my brain's wired to be successful at it and thinking outside the box and, my neurospicy brain and things like that. So I would say like knowing that you're passionate about it because you're going to fail if you're in it for the money. You're going to fail if you're in it because like, oh, it sounds fun. And I say fail very lightly because like,
You're going to fail, period. I fail
correct.
every day.
That's what
But
I'm like,
like,
right.
that's what it's like, failing forward, right? You just
Correct.
fail, you just get back up,
Yeah.
you learn. It's just
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
always sing
I
like
love that.
Aaliyah, like get yourself up and try again. It's fine.
Yeah. There you go. I love it. That's fun.
So yeah, I would say just do it. Like just get out of your comfort zone in a way like stepping outside your comfort zone in a way where you are comfortable. What feels natural to you. So like if you want to do so in the creative business or in what I do you want to try a market? Do you want to put yourself on Etsy? Do you want to put there's ways that you can step outside and showcase yourself and showcase your abilities that are still like, okay, this is where I'm at. And then you continue to push yourself further and further. Like you don't have to sign up for the biggest, best thing possible and you go after the biggest fish. You just need to start fishing.
Yeah. I have two thoughts. One is I really, truly, at my core, believe that you will always have enough. And I think that people that are worried, like are afraid to take a step into entrepreneurship, worry about, we kind of can get into the scarcity mindset of like, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do? It always just works out. It is.
Yeah.
And what you just said that like taking the step, doing the thing, I believe that when you adopt a mindset that opportunity is all around you,
Mm-hmm.
it is one of my mantras. Opportunity is all around
I
me.
love
I
that.
attract it. I see it. I'm ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
like I literally say that to myself every morning. And what it does is when you put yourself into action, if you go do the farmer's market, if you go do the craft fair, if you sign up for the direct sales company, whatever it is that you want to do, like if you just take the leap of faith and the step, that action is what's going to open the opportunities, right? You have to see them.
Right.
You have to look for them and be open to them. And that's what I mean. But those are just two things that I feel like I love that you took the leap. You got to call the guy.
Yeah.
That was like, hey, could I commission you to make me one of those? And say, I don't know if I ever told you, but thank you.
Yeah. No, we've had the conversation.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
And I agree with that. And I think something else, like, that's mindset, right? But also, like, one of those things where, like, every no is closer to a yes. It's just like sales 101, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, take the leap. And if you fail, like, you're going to get back up and someone else is going to say, like, you're getting closer to the yes every single time.
Yeah.
Or every time you make a mistake. I can't tell you how many times where I've messed up because I switched the letters on a last name or the addresses. And I'm like, shoot. And so now that's how you know what systems you need to implement or triple check or send a proof or whatever it looks like. Like, and you can find parallels in your own business, right? Have somebody read the contract or, right.
Yes.
So there's just a lot of things that we have to do in order just to put guardrails up. We're never going to put those guardrails up if we don't try.
Yeah. And, I think let's leave them with one thought, and then I'm going to ask you these 5 questions. This has been so powerful. I really appreciate your time. But I believe that confidence comes from courage. You want to gain in confidence to do something, well, you have to be courageous first.
Right.
Confidence isn't just something that's like, oh, some kids are born and their personality is just like, I'm a very outgoing person, but I have grown in my confidence over time by taking the leap, trying the thing, being courageous. So I don't know. I think that you have been super courageous throughout your journey so far. And 37 and, just getting started, and you're way ahead of Oprah. So she's like, I can't even wait to see where you're at when you're 50.
Yeah.
Okay, my 5 quick questions, rapid fire.
Okay.
I don't even know if you read these. So, but the first one, what's a song that always puts you in a good mood?
Oh, there's so many. I'm a big music person.
Just one.
Ambitions as a Writer by Tupac.
Ooh, okay. Just a side note, these go on a playlist. So
yes.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I don't have them. Like, what was my other one? What is a bucket list item of yours that you haven't fulfilled yet?
Seeing the Northern Lights.
Ooh, that's fun. What is something you wish your younger self would know?
Continue to trust your process.
How would you tell like your kids that?
Like,
give me 6-year-old language for that.
Yeah. So I would talk about like gut feelings inside and being patient to make choices, and that you're responsible for your choices. So it's accountability, but it's also just knowing, like, it's learning how to trust yourself at a young age. And I think we need more of that in the world. Yeah.
Well, we also need more parents to coddle that. Right?
Yeah.
We do. We need people.
And sometimes you're like, don't talk back. They're like, but you told me to have a voice. And I'm like,
no. And it's hard. I know. Anyway.
Yeah. That's a whole other conversation.
Okay. What's your favorite beauty product?
Oh, so can I share a hack?
Yeah.
Okay. So my favorite hack is a dry curl. Okay. I didn't do it today, but I put a scarf around my head if my hair is like semi-wet, and I wrap it around. I can send you a video if you want, but I'll wrap my hair around the scarf, and then in the morning I sleep with it on, and then I have like beach waves in the morning.
I have seen those like
they have
sponge things that you can kind of do that with,
but I just do it with a scarf.
All right,
and it's super efficient, super time. Like, it saves a bunch of time to where you can wake up and not even have to worry about your hair.
I love it. Well, I don't know if that was 5, but I think that we got so much. I got so much out of this. Good. I loved having you on.
I enjoyed this.
Thank you. I appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Hey friend, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. I hope it brought you value, a few laughs, and maybe even an aha moment. The conversation doesn't end here. We've got an amazing community of women waiting to connect with you. Join us on Facebook in the Girlfriend's Guide to Midlife podcast community group, where we share takeaways, swap stories, and cheer each other on. You can also find me on Instagram at Girlfriends Midlife Podcast for daily inspiration, sneak peeks of upcoming episodes, and a behind-the-scenes look at this midlife journey, or on my personal handle at DearKathy719, where I share about my day-to-day life, real estate, and what I find inspiration in. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you left a quick rating and review. It helps more women like us discover the podcast and reminds me that I'm not just talking to myself over here. And don't forget to hit the follow button so you'll be the first to know when the next episode drops. Check out the show notes for links to connect with today's guest and all the goodies we have mentioned. Until next time, keep thriving and showing the world how fabulous midlife can be. You've got this.